order. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Hayes?
Present.
Mr. Davis?
Present.
Mr. Guerra?
Present.
Mr. Winfrey? Mr. Winfrey?
Oh, I'm present.
Ms. Galloway?
Present.
Mr. Briggs?
Present.
Ms. Worthing?
Present.
Thank you.
That's going to be a language that you require to change.
No, this is,
Yeah, it does. The one for,
no, this is for,
yeah, it requires an ordinance change. I talked to.
Point of order.
What's your point of order,
What we
Mr.?
doing? We had roll.
So we did have roll call. We have opened up the Finance Committee meeting, and I was just told that there was a request for the Legislative Committee meeting to be first, but we are already in the Finance Committee meeting. So we can hear from Ms. Ms. Worthing to hear the reason for the legislative change.
Mr. Winfrey forgot, that's okay, I forgive you. I am gonna make a motion that we go into legislative committee. Can I do that?
You have to make a motion.
Okay, I make a motion to table finance so that we can go into the legislative committee. I have Mr.
There's a
Erickson.
motion on the floor.
Oh, sorry.
I'll second that motion.
There's a motion on the floor, and it has been seconded. The attorney would like to say something.
Yeah, if I could go ahead and do the executive session.
Executive session.
So I can leave, Mr. Erickson will be here all night, but I'd like to go home after all done.
So now we'll have some discussion.
Madam Chair, I make a substitute motion that we table this finance committee after the executive session to go into legislative.
So further, okay. So it's been moved and seconded, but the agenda still has an add or change. So we have to deal with that too, because we didn't suspend the rules of the order of our agenda. So that means that we would have a discussion on that. And so your motion is to go into executive session, then table and go to legislation. You're adding two?
Yep.
Okay, I won't report it. Mr. Mays?
I'm gonna say this.
Was there a second?
Before I
There was, Ms. Worthing.
Okay.
Before I say what I will support
Yeah, I
or
know.
not support on this amended motion, I would caution the council that the next amendment might be your last. So be very careful. Finish out the discussion. Look at all of your agenda changes and don't be too hasty to exclude people. And I don't know if I got any, but I'm not the only person at the table, so I'm just chiming in. I know I have more time under those goofy rules to discuss in this motion, but I'm cautioning the council before you jump out there with the final amendment, if there is one, be courteous to your other colleagues.
Ms. Worthing, you want to speak?
Yeah. I have Mr. Erickson here to speak with us, and I don't want to hold him for as long as our meetings may go. Plus, legislative, we haven't had legislative first in a while. I know finance is always supposed to go, but it seems like it takes up the majority of our time, and we never get to the important topics in legislative, and there's several in here. And so I am asking that we please, for this one time, put legislative first due to several issues that I would like to get to.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I try my best as President of the Council, when I'm hearing from my colleagues and they want things, whether it's a change in how we normally have meetings or committee meetings, those in that order, I try to accommodate my colleagues. And so that was a request that was made to me by my colleague, Councilwoman Worthing. And when she said that and told me what she wanted to do, I said yes, as I would with any of my other colleagues. Thank you.
And then you want to talk again?
No.
Oh, so I have a question. Many of us stay to the end, and Attorney Wheeler, are you saying that Reed is here He is the attorney
I have
on
him
file
assigned- I
tonight.
have him assigned tonight to cover all the meetings. So I would like to do the executive session, which should take, for me, it should take about 5 minutes. So I can go ahead and leave, and then I will have Attorney Erickson here for the remainder of the evening.
So I'm wondering from my colleagues, would it be possible, because the resolutions that we have on council, and if I'm not mistaken, there's, is there only one or two walk-on, Steve? There's a walk-on for 7 million or so, is that correct? I'm just wondering if my colleagues will reach a compromise, and can we do the resolutions and postpone the special order? And you can breathe if you want to, we're all breathing, I'm asking for a compromise. If we can do the resolutions that shouldn't take long, and then table or postpone to the next meeting any special orders and/or additional business. And so that's something that, and the reason, and I'll tell you guys why. Legislation, I've tried to do the research, you guys. It's going to be a long meeting tonight. There's an ordinance change, if I'm not mistaken, that we're looking at tonight. So, you know, there is, and if you're doing the work on the research, there is a zoning ordinance that we need to look at tonight that is coming before us because there is a business that wants to come in. And that ordinance, I don't know if you guys have been looking for it, but I've called Andy and I've talked to Andy to say, okay, Andy, you know, this seems like a pretty deep. I asked someone from the Planning Commission, I asked the chair from the Planning Commission to be here because they ruled against something that now this body is being asked to review to see if we're going to override that ruling. So it is really a working one. And so, you know, I just wanted to put that out there, but that's all I had. Ms. Worthing, you've already spoken twice on the topic. Mr. Davis? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. You spoke on the, this is a substitute, right? Go ahead. What's your point of order?
See if anybody else wants to.
Oh, Mr. Davis, I don't know if you spoke. Mr. Davis, thank you for your point of order. You're right. You will, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So make sure I want to make sure I'm understanding. The executive session, is it a problem for us to just do that if it's going to be such a short session? It's not a problem.
They just mix two in. It's the executive session and then ending finance.
Right,
going to
absolutely.
Yeah.
No further questions. I'm
Thank
done.
you. Go ahead, Ms. Worthing.
I think that
Oh, did you?
it may not be as long as what you think, as well as what better time to do it at the beginning when we're fresh. We usually get to these types of things in, 9, 10 p.m. And I would like to, just once, and I thank the president for saying that I could before, because I've not asked this before, so.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Mays?
Yeah, I think y'all got, the votes is gonna pass to do the executive session. It looks like it can go to, the ordinance. It looks like that's gonna happen, but what I'm concerned about always is the resolutions. I done looked at all the agendas. I got a chance to do that today. I don't always get a chance to do that. But you got some action on grants. The grants action is a consolidated plan. Did you know that, Mr. Gill, or the CAPER or CAPER or whatever, there's something on that. And then you got some action in legislative and you got some action in governmental ops. Now, I know y'all like the chair, but I've been and moved all the action to the one action agenda and take it from there. But I think we're smart enough not to do that. But we can do that, depending on what mood we in. So I'm gonna support the amended motion to do the executive session. We can quit talking about it. The votes is here. Go ahead and do it. Then we gonna go to that ordinance. I don't think that ordinance gonna take as long as you think. I've done my homework on it. I know where I stand. So I don't really buy into that. Now, it might be some opposition that think it's gonna take long, but you know how y'all do when y'all get ready to vote. It ain't gotta be a lot of discussion. Let's see how fast we can work today, but be careful calling for questions before people chime in. People have a right to chime in. So I'm gonna vote yes on this one, and then we'll get into it and take it from there. If we got this motion to do the executive order, then is the motion saying, the executive session, is the motion saying after the executive session, we adjourn, go to that one ordinance, and then come back to finance? Is that the motion? I thought that's what I understood.
Legislative, the whole committee meeting.
That's what's being proposed. If we do that, I'm gonna be knocking out stuff in legislative. I'm gonna get out of there as fast as I got in it, and I hope y'all can support that. It ain't gonna be no long legislative on other stuff. I'll go in for that, and then I'm gonna come right out regardless of what's left in legislative. That's my intent. Okay.
So, Councilman Mays, this is my
We're
second
in
and final
finance.
time. So, Councilman Mays,
Okay.
is it your, well, I guess you're the maker of the motion,
Substitute motion.
the substitute motion. And I just want to understand that what I'm hearing Councilman Mays say is what you're saying. Councilman Mays is saying, we will have the executive session, we will table finance, we will open up legislative, we will deal with an ordinance, and then we will come out and go back to finance and then get back to legislation. Is that what you were understanding, Mr. Mays? I thought that's what he's saying.
If I may, if
Please.
that's like a point of
It is
information,
a
I'm
point of
understanding that we gonna go in executive session, leave out of finance, go into legislative, and then after legislative, go back to finance. My position is I'm not gonna let us stay in legislative as long, because if it ain't for that one ordinance, I don't care what's left on there. I'm gonna make the proper motions to get out of it, and I hope I got support.
Sounds good to me. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are in, we gotta hear from the city attorney.
City Attorney's Office is requesting an executive session and to discuss a matter to be discussed in a closed session pursuant to MCL 15.268 E for settlement strategy in connection with specific pending litigation, and also to consider materials exempt from disclosure pursuant to state and federal law under section H, and having the open meeting act detrimental effect, we request to go into executive session on early SISF payments.
So is there a motion,
Madam Chair.
Mr. Mays?
Based upon the communications that the city attorney just read into this record, I would move that we go into executive session in order to talk about an update of city council regarding the Michigan self-insurance settlement payment.
Mr. President?
I support the motion.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mr. Mays?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Guerra?
Yeah.
Ms. Fields?
Yes.
Mr. Winfrey?
Mr. Winfrey?
Yes.
Ms. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs? Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Ms. Worthing?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, the vote is 8 yes, 0 no to go into executive session.
Perfecto. So for those of you who don't know, we're going into executive session. Once we get done with that, you'll be invited to come back in.
I wasn't bound,
are there any additions and or changes to the agenda?
Madam Chair, I would yield to Mr. Gill.
I would like to see, all the special orders after resolution.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, Madam Chair. As it relates to the legislative agenda and what we said and did, I would propose this. I would do well, first I want to say, I'm thinking that when I find my legislative committee agenda, which I just found, looks like we came here to deal with 190-411, 190-413. Would those be the relevant ones?
414.
Yes.
Those would be the two relevant ordinances, right? So, keeping that in mind and looking at the other important business and ordinances, clearly I heard what Mr. Guerra said, but I wanna leave some room to see if we wanna tackle that or hop back to, finance. So, I'm gonna do an amended motion. I'm gonna say after, I move that after public speaking, we address 190-411 and 190-413. And then, we entertain a motion as to how we proceed with legislative and finance, and I so move.
There's been a motion to deal with 190-411, 190-413 first after public speaking, and there's a second. Any discussion?
Yeah. Was there a second? I'm sorry.
Mr. Wiggly?
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Wiggly?
What is going to happen to the three special orders in front of the ordinances? We tend to move them off of the agenda, or cover them later, or what? I mean, why are we going out of order?
They already were moved to the end of, point of information. Are you aware that they were already moved to the end of the agenda by Mr. Guerra during his, check, right?
Yeah. He, he requested that, but now there's a motion.
Yeah, correct.
So,
Point of
is there,
information.
Mr. Mays?
Mr. Gregg, as soon as we do the one ordinance, do you understand, then we're gonna discuss what we do next? No decision.
Okay. Any other discussion?
We've been a half an hour on this, and we ain't got
Okay.
anywhere.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public speaking, anyone may address this council. Is there anyone that would like to do so?
Get a timer? Get a
I'm
timer?
supposed to time it?
Yeah, you want me to?
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Mitchell?
Hello, councilors. I'm Mr. R.L. Mitchell. I would like to address this situation about this walk-on, $7 million walk-on. About, it's like this robotic situation, General Motors strike over on Van Dyke Road. And we the peoples of Flint, we protest about this because we've been slighted about this money situation. People's getting $47 an hour and the next two getting $15 an hour, and people don't know when to retire. This younger generation, they want to get rid of the senior citizen, but they don't know how. Without using that robotic situation, because the computers can do more work than the peoples. And we, other peoples, want y'all to know that we don't appreciate that. And try to walk over the picket line and see what happened to you tonight. They gonna get run over by some truck besides we getting run. I take that.
Is there anyone else that would like to address this council? Can you state your name and, for the record?
Christina Raisins. I talked to you guys a few weeks ago at the council meeting. I wanted to just, some things have transpired and emailed out today, the latest thing that's going on with it, that within the bid protest, which stemmed from the contaminated land with our lease agreement. I thought it was important because in the letter that I had to send to the Attorney General was requesting investigations into the Flint's Law Department. Specifically, I appreciate what you all do, but I wanted to address, I didn't really have a time that day, that when Ms. Worthing, you requested information and asked Ms. Wilcox about contamination, and she shut you down with, oh, that was under litigation. And then Mr. Kim from the Law Department indicated that, oh, he agreed. I wanted to point out, because I didn't have time that night, that we actually had been in court that morning, and the judge wiped away anything that would have been related to any of that. However, the contamination wasn't even part of that lawsuit at all. So what's happening is, she brought it up, the council wanted to ask questions, they buried it, the law department also covered it. That can be confirmed with pulling the lawsuit and seeing for a fact that that's what's happened. What's going on now is that it's been sent to the Attorney General's office because the DQ has now fabricated new leak numbers for these tanks. So it's all in the letter that I did send, but I actually wanted to take the 2 minutes because I feel like, which most of the residents feel like, you do not get information. You guys are pigeonholed on this entire situation, and unrightfully so made the bad guy a lot of times just because they withheld it. But the problem right now, at least with what I've been suffering as a business owner in the area and as a resident, is the administration. The collusion and efforts behind the law department supporting and covering what these administrators are doing.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to address the council? Melanie?
Yes. Two things. One, we had the emergency, the financial managers were in, and many people were upset with what they did before. Licensing fees were changed, increased, and I think it's time for council to take another look at those fees, because they're very expensive to developers and people wanting to move into the area. And I'll give you an example. If you're purchasing a home and it was inspected the day before you purchased it by the previous owner, so on one day the previous owner has an inspection, because 3-4 years are up and he does the inspection. Tuesday you buy the house. On Wednesday, guess what you have to do? Have another inspection. And that inspection, if it was good, it should carry over unless there's been a fire or some significant damage to the structure. There's no need to do that all over again. I mean, because it generates money for the city, but it takes away from other inspections that need to be done, and we know they're not getting done every 3 or 4 years like they should be. And the reason for the inspections is for the health and safety of the people that are living there, that the property is being rented to, or even if they're buying it as a primary residence. The recreational marijuana, I hope we look at the sites that were used, that were areas that were allowed to have medical marijuana there, and continue with at least that zoning, those areas that were allowed for medical to be allowed for recreational. I'm sure there'll be a large, demand for different locations. And I don't know if the lottery or drawing is the best way to do it, but I think that all needs to be looked at. And as long as there's areas and they're not violating different ordinances, then, or different zoning, then people should be able to put in, there shouldn't be a quota as to how many. I would recommend that inspections be done. I'm looking to purchase a house, and on my own money, I had the city inspector come in, found all kinds of violations, and some of them significant.
Point of order.
What's your point of order?
Did you know that Mr. Del Marone's time was up?
I did, I was just.
I'll sum up real quick. So in my example, the furnace, they never did a final inspection. The hot water tank permit was never pulled. Those things are hooked up improperly, so they had to get corrected ahead of time. So it's for the safety of the people that are buying these homes for a personal residence or for an income unit, that we have these inspections and they get done timely. Someone needs to track it.
Thank you. Oh, I don't know, did anyone else want to address the council?
This past weekend,
Can you see any of them?
Arthur Woodson, this past weekend, there was a break, water main break over in Glendale. What was it, Brentwood? Brentwood. They called, it broke at 11:30. 2 weeks prior to that, the city had came out and drilled holes. They knew there was a leak. Didn't fix it. Water shot up 4 feet in the air. It ran from Saturday, 11:30 till yesterday, I think about 4 o'clock. All right. Last night, over on Westwood, they knew that it was a leak. It was called September the 4th. They knew there was a leak. 11:30 last night, exploded. And it ran until, 4 o'clock this morning when they went and shut it off. You all need to put a policy or either an ordinance, find out whatever it is that y'all need to do to force them to have an emergency crew. They did not issue a boil water alert until later on this evening. All this weekend we didn't have low pressure in our distribution system. Rob Benzick did an interview that was appalling and downright nasty. Said his workers have a family and a life. People that didn't have water this weekend has a family and a life. Rob Benzick has serious issues. Doesn't come out. He rode by the water. I was out there. He rode right past me. It's on video. Didn't even stop to even check it out. Let me say this real quick for the marijuana. Genesee County, I'm gonna wrap it up. Genesee County is gonna benefit. Swartz Creek, Flushing, they're not gonna put any dispensaries or anything over in their area. Then 30% comes back to Genesee County Sheriff's Department. They already don't think we're part of the county anyway. What you all need to do and start working on it right now is do an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, that they have to give, they have to give what we put in so that they don't take our resources out there to the other cities, surrounding cities. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address this council?
Good evening. Quincy Murphy. A couple of things. One, I would like you guys just to look into the process of the hiring of the bondsman. I went to the Ethics and Accountability Board meeting. As you guys are aware, they interviewed 3 candidates, and there was some confidential information that the Ethics and Accountability Board members had, where they was taking notes that they needed in order to make recommendations on a candidate, whoever they wanted to choose. At the last meeting, the Human Resources Department did not show up at their meeting at all. So the information they needed was not there. So therefore, they had to postpone, even if they wanted to decide to choose a person for the ombudsman. As you guys know, we've been coming to City Council for the last 2 years trying to get an ombudsman. I feel like it's a stall tactic being played by the Human Resources Department not to allow them to appoint an ombudsman. So I think you guys should look into that. Also, on the corner of Gillespie and Martin Luther King, the old Odyssey Daycare, across the street from Bethlehem Temple Church that I attend, the building is collapsed. It caught on fire. My pastor tried to reach out to the administration, a couple of council members, and the commissioners to pay a third of the cost to get the building completely torn down. No one would respond to him, so I told him I would come here tonight and speak on that. You guys got a grant for a diet road beautification for Martin Luther King Street or something. I attended the meeting at the Neighborhood Engagement Hub. I think you guys should do all things necessary to get that removed. It's a young man that catch the bus right there on that corner, and he said it'd be rats and skunks and all of that stuff all up in there, and it's just pitiful that we won't come together to try to do just the basic things. Now, if that building was downtown Flint, it wouldn't even be there. So if you guys could look at doing something like that, we would appreciate that.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address this council?
Yeah. I wasn't actually planning on speaking.
Will you say your name for the
I'm
record?
sorry, Laura McIntyre.
Point of information, can she move closer to the table so when it's recorded, we can pick it up?
Hi. So I'm here as a resident, not in any other capacity right now. I'm in Ward 6 in Mott Park. And this is in terms of water bills, water liens, that kind of thing. I currently I pay between $140 and $170 per month for my water bill. It's still not water that I can drink, that I can use, that I can clean with or cook with. I pay $200 a month because I have a $1,400 back payment that's outstanding, just from being overcharged on estimated charges. And I've worked with Eric, who's helped me deal with a payment plan. But every single month, I still get a shut-off notice, even though I pay $200 a month. I just would like you to know, in terms of the RAP program, so I'm a lecturer at the University of Michigan Flint, and so you would think that I would be paid enough that I would be able to pay my water bills in full. I mean, I do pay them in full and I pay extra, but as a lecturer, I still qualify for food stamps and Medicare. So just to let you know that the RAP program is insufficient, and I have been on a waiting list to get on a waiting list since March. And according to the gentleman that I waited on the phone 20 minutes to speak to, who is an employee with a nonprofit organization out of Wayne County, which has been contracted to set up appointments. I'm sure you guys know all of this, but it just needs to be reiterated. I don't understand why nonprofit executives are getting way more than I would ever make to set up appointments for Flint residents who are in desperate need of assistance for estimated water bills, those kind of things. I'm still, every single day, I'm worried about getting my water shut off, even though I'm paying over $200 a month. So,
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address this council? Okay, public speaking is now closed, and we are.
Excuse me.
Oh,
Okay, I'm late, but
okay, that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Eddie Matt. I'm at 45 Trumbull. I just have a couple of questions. What does it take to get your yard restored back to the pre-line replacement position? Okay. Why is it that the streets are not being repaired as you go? Why is it that the yards are not being repaired as you go? What is the problem? Okay, because if I had to go through another winter with my yard screwed up, I'm not going to be a very happy counselor. Simple as that. You know, there is no reason why streets should go 2 years without being repaired. Yards should go 2 years without being repaired. There's no feasible reason that I can even come to think about that makes any sense with that. And I'm just wondering, I mean, who's in charge? You know, who's supposed to be doing the work? And if a company that's doing line replacement is not doing it as you go, they shouldn't get no more work until that's finished. Common sense. Common sense. Never do another job when the first one ain't complete. Common sense. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So public speaking is now closed, and we are, Ms. Fields, sorry, I'm here.
I'd like to respond to Mr. Woodson about the water main break and the coverage. I found out because in my ward, we had a substantial water main break, and it was dangerous, and cars were still driving over it even though the road was cracking and coming up and down. And I had quite a time getting anybody in the city to come out and even put up a barricade to block off the road so we could let people know to not go down that road. And subsequently I found out that after hours and on weekends, and I assume the same is probably true on holidays, there is nobody manning the phones. There's no crew out there to go deal with an emergency. There's nobody to call. And I had to go through a real comedy of errors to even find somebody. And then later I found out that Mr. Benzik, our DPW director, says that the emergency line is monitored only by him and has been monitored only by him 24/7 for the past, I don't know, however many years he's been doing this, which is crazy because Mr. Benzik goes out of town. Mr. Benzik has to have some time off. And I think the truth of the matter is maybe he just doesn't monitor it as closely. I mean, I don't know. Okay, I just know that what I had to go through was ridiculous. I had to call every department head I knew of to try to get somebody out there to just put up some barricades. Not even expecting that it would be repaired that weekend or turned off, but just to put up barricades. So council doesn't implement or run staffing, but I think we certainly could develop a policy about emergency coverage for that type of emergency and others as well. And I asked for, I can't even remember if Mr. Branch gave it to me, but I got a hold of the FEMA plan. And luckily, if we have a tornado or something, basically the county and FEMA takes over. Because I think the communications, so I asked for an emergency communications plan from the city to at least let us know who to call and who's second in command if you can't get that first person. So that's the biggest thing I wanted to comment on.
Anyone else on the council? Mr. Davis?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to respond to Mr. Murphy as well as Mr. Woodson. That's horrific over there on Detroit Street by Bethlehem Temple. They called me about it. And it's sitting there like a bomb blew up in that neighborhood. It's clear that I keep saying it repetitively, outside of town get different treatment. We call it ace of ace. We don't get treated like downtown. It's 9 bodies on this board. We got to start paying attention to what the constituents saying. Like the young lady work at U of M. Because you work at a college setting don't make you be rich. I got an issue with nonprofits. Ruth Mott, Child Stewart Mott, Ruth Mott, Community Foundation, they write these stipulations. But most people now that's getting these nonprofits is getting what they call admin fee, administration fees. But they ain't giving quality care to the community they write them. I think 1.6 million to the north side. The residents don't see that money, but the ones that's writing these grants see the money. We got to start getting concerned with helping people relieve some of this stress. If you've seen that Frontline documentary, this is a highly impoverished community. And if we don't pay attention, it's going to be more than Legionnaires and lead take us out of here. People ain't affording their houses now. We live in third world conditions. With all of this money at Roof Mod and other billions of dollars in the city with the colleges and Kettering, yada yada. I wish they would start getting concerned with treating everybody like they treat downtown. Schultz and everybody else. I'm not scared to say it, but the people is not getting treated fair across the board. I wish we had seats, somebody that had common sense that's not outside the community but in the north end that was on them boards so they could get real treatment, not just the Burston Field House, McCree Theater. People need help. Thank you for allowing me to say that.
Thank you. I'm going to go around and think with Mr. Guerra.
Yeah, I think that an emergency policy would be a good idea, because I have seen a lot of things. I tuned into your live video. It's just crazy to see how long things like that can go on for, especially when they're impacting so many residents in their personal lives. And you're right, they do have families that are impacted by that. Mr. Murphy, I do want to maybe talk more with you about that. You said that your pastor was interested in putting up 1/3 or something, you said earlier, to work with the land bank, because I do know that property is in between the 3rd and 2nd Ward on MLK, and it's been like that for quite some time, and I've actually physically went over there and looked at it, and it's bad. It's land bank, like I said. Yeah, it's the land bank property in between our wards, and definitely maybe looking into potentially partnering with that and trying to find those fundings. I do know it's a different type of funding for big demolition projects like that than it is for housing funding, so hopefully we can get that. And the fact that we don't have an ombudsman yet is crazy. I mean, the city charter passed that back in 2017, and that we're still in the hiring phases, and I hope that we can see some progress over there in HR working with the board as well. I think that's what we need to see, and qualified candidates too for that position, and I hopefully we can find somebody for that position soon, because we have been waiting on that for quite some time now. That's it.
Yeah, with respect with what Mr. Woodson was saying, that water main leak over on, in my ward on Westwood Parkway initially happened, or I was notified about it September 3. And I did a short email to administration September 4. And then I did a rather longer email with more description September 6th, and assumed it was in the works to one day get fixed. Well, then suddenly, last night when it finally did rupture the big, which was at 9:45, only thing I could do was I dialed 911, and then I texted Mr. Benson, because he doesn't have voicemail set up on his cell phone, and I couldn't leave him a message, so I just texted him. But anyhow, 911 did get involved, and they did respond. So I don't know what the deal is, but it is possible to get some emergency work done. And of course, there was a press conference this morning out there on the street, and the problem will probably be resolved here in just a day or two. However, that was kind of a long period from September 26th to yesterday before anything got done. But I do know from my engineering experience, in like 25 years in industry, all pipelines will leak. You know, even if we run some goop in a pipeline under Lake Huron one of these days, it will leak. It will rupture. Every pipeline. You don't have a perfect pipeline anywhere, not that I know of. But anyhow, that's all I've got to say is utilize 911 until we do like Councilwoman Field said, come up with an emergency contact. We really do need one, other than just hoping we get the person with the right frame of mind at 911 that has to answer the call. That's all. Thanks.
Mr. Meeks?
Yeah, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, through you to the gentleman, I want to, if you will, come on in. You made a statement. I'm responding to it. Not being argumentative, but I will say this to you, sir. When you declare an emergency and you get a whole lot of state and federal money to do something that you don't really even have the capacity to do. It's a lot of things that you do in an emergency, and I say an emergency because I was in the middle of helping declare it. This is a model city. That means, of course we didn't do stuff right. I got a friend named V.O. Luster. He said what we should have did is what you said. We should have contracted out to replace the pipes, and the same contractor who replaced them should have been not paid until they fixed the grass street, whatever. That's something that you learn from if it's the right way to do it. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it, they said the liability, like the insurance, they did a 90-day liability, and it should have been for a year or two, because when them contractors leave out of that 90-day liability clause, we gonna be spending Flint money to fix stuff for the next year or two. So they should have attached a year or two of liability versus 90 days. So we understand that, and I'm gonna just leave it at that. I'm gonna listen to you. I understand it. We know we're a model city, and in a model city, people bump their head and make plenty of mistakes. So keep talking, keep speaking, and under these funny rules, when everybody speaks, you'll hear us respond. Let me say this, Mr. Murphy. Mr. Murphy, you and others from the Charter Revision Commission has come down here, and I can assure you That charter got a whole lot of stuff, just like in 1974, that takes time to implement. But you get these lobby groups. I'm gonna wrap up just like the rest of it. You get these lobby groups on the ombudsman, on the ethics committee. You called to the attention that they should be coming up quarterly, department heads, and you said it right in the middle of subpoenaing folks. That's the nature of a charter. The 74 charter wasn't totally implemented, and so that's just the nature of a charter. That charter says any violation, this council should police and remove appointed and elected officials. You know, I've been doing more of that than I would be doing resolution and voting on money. We got to talk about that charter. I'm way over my time limit in this goofy 2-minute response. Let's get this thing moving and get on with the business. God bless the public who commented. Amen. Don't nobody say amen but me. It's relevant for me. I didn't expect nobody to mix politics and God.
Mr. Winfrey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. That water main break on Brentwood was in my ward, and I did receive a call from several, and text as well from some of my constituents. I called Rob Benson, and as he does in the high 90 percentile of the calls that I send to him, he answered his phone. And I shared with him what had been shared with me, and he indicated to me that he would have a crew out there on Sunday. I go to church and I come back and I have multiple emails or texts that nobody had showed up. I called him, I didn't get a response. I texted and I didn't get a response. That's unlike him when I try to contact him. I hope it's the same way with everybody else. The problem with, I think, the water main breaks with my constituents as they shared with me was, yes, they had a problem with the water, with the break, but some folks lost pressure and some folks had absolutely no pressure. But whenever any of us council folks are responding to our constituents with information that we get from the department head, it needs to be factual. And to say to them that what I was told that they would address it on Sunday, that's what I expected. But then not even to get a call back to say, hey, look, we're not going to be able to get there, to me. So when we talk about this process, this emergency process that we need to be a part of, I don't think that, or at least for me, it's not well enough for someone else or other departments to create that emergency response plan. I think it would be good if we could be a part of it as well, because I think that's part of the problem that we had. And I was glad that they fixed it on Monday, but I was told Sunday, and that's what I told my people, or my constituents. So hopefully we all can be in on how do we abate that problem. That's a problem. How do we do it in a systematic way that works for everyone?
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Galloway?
Did I do my 2 minutes?
Yeah. You did. Timer went off.
So, I will say that,
No, you good.
oh, okay. Will you start my time over?
Yep.
I thought he wanted to say something.
No, I can take it.
So, I can understand what President Winfrey is saying, but water main breaks is not something new. And so it would be hard for me to believe that there isn't an emergency plan. And I don't, as much as we are the council, nobody should be able to put an emergency plan together better than the water department. We have old pipes. This is not new. This should be something that we should be very good at, one. The other thing is there are leadership positions in departments that are salaried for a reason. You're salaried because sometimes you're gonna be called to do some things that you don't expect the regular hourly people to do. And that's get up in the middle of the night and handle emergency situations, which is why you get paid the additional resources that are compensated in those things. And so I would want to see if we don't already have something in place. For me, it's 50-50 with Mr. Benzick. And so, and that 50 is on the low side. I can always get Betty Weidman. Steve, Lisa is absolutely amazing. She always responds. She is always making sure that if you, for any of my colleagues, I don't know if it's appropriate, but she's so safe for me. She answers restoration information. She tries to keep me updated on where they're going to be working at. The restoration in my ward and Goyette and them know, I am convinced that they planted weeds.
Yes.
They look like weeds. And I did talk to Jack and the Beanstalk, and they are weeds. And he told me that because they buy in bulk, that's what, and I'm telling you that is a lie from the pits of hell. I'm telling you, my grandbaby is 5. Yesterday he was playing baseball, pulled up the thing, and I said, don't pull up my grass. He said, at 5, Granny, this is a weed in the very area. I'm telling you. And so that 90-day thing, if we need to figure something out, it's awful, awful, awful. And I'm not letting them up. If nothing else, I called them in the 90 days. They're going to fix it next year or whatever years. But within the 90 days, I got on it. Thank you.
Sure.
Oh,
Yes. Okay, yeah, I was gonna say something.
Yeah.
I'll just finish up. I was gonna say the same thing, let me time myself. As Ms. Galloway, I don't think it should be, I mean, we might have to, but it shouldn't be our job to come up with an emergency plan. We have a lot to do. This should be a water department thing. And it's hard for me to believe that there's nothing in place already. It's not good. And as far as Ms. Gillespie, I was a lecturer too at the University of Michigan Flint.
Sorry.
They did get a raise, right? But I was also on Medicaid, and
After the raise.
oh yeah, all of that. I made $33,000 that year with council, lecture, and other things. I don't mind saying because I have a master's degree. Yes, Mr. Mays.
So at 22,000, I can get Medicaid, food stamps, and everything I need,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Is that what y'all telling me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, hallelujah.
Well, I also
I
have,
make 38 and I have 3 kids, so that's.
yes, and I had 2 kids at 33, so when you're trying to raise a family on the limited income, $25 a month for RAP is just kind of laughable. And that is,
Oh, I can't even get on it.
yeah, well, and you and I are, yeah, there's, you and I are part of the majority, is that this is a low-income city, and to have such a high water bill, and to not be able to have the assistance is concerning. And I get a lot of calls, people are trying to make it. And I've addressed this before, about getting the notice, the shut-off notice, every single month, even though you're making payments. Not only is it scary for the residents, but it's money that we're spending on paper and resources. And anyone on the RAP program or anyone making their payments shouldn't be getting that. So we need to do some serious fixing in the water department as far as, I don't know if it's the automated program or whatever. And I'll end there.
Point of information.
Yes, Mr.
Responding to my colleague here know that when I mentioned about us being a part of this emergency plan, I'm not talking about us creating it, and I'm talking about being brought along. I mean, come on. I would never think to call 911 for a water main break. Is that in the list of things to do? You know, I would never think that. So I'm saying that if all of us have the same kind of information as to what we do as a city, when we have those things, then we'll all do the same thing.
Mr. Guerra.
We got ordinances now.
Yeah.
I would like to make a motion to send 190411, and the connected one was for 190413 to council.
There's been a motion to move 190411 and 190413 to council. Is there a second? Mr. Winfrey? It's been made and seconded. Ms. Fields?
I have a question. If you come to the bottom of the paragraph here, it says on 190413, it says Planning Commission recommends denial.
Right.
So, I would personally would like to hear more about why the Planning Commission.
Point of information.
Oh, Mr. Mays.
Wasn't it a subsequent letter from staff review attached as well with a different recommendation?
No.
For a point of information, well then I did read a staff review letter. Isn't that a fact?
Before we get started on this, maybe Ms. Wilcox, you would like to say anything about these two?
Your
Sure.
order.
Mr. Mays,
Let Ms. Fields continue, she got the floor.
is that okay, Ms. Fields, that she would maybe
I would
start-
gladly, and then I would like the floor back.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's actually, so the staff, when we go through the process of reviewing applications for actions that are going to go before the Planning Commission, staff makes a recommendation to the Planning Commission. That is based upon our review of the ordinance, of the status of the master plan, of the zoning, and so that recommendation goes to the Planning Commission as the multiple member body who makes the final recommendation to council. So what is coming, and I have Andy Amott here tonight who can speak a little bit more to it, but what is coming to you tonight is actually the Planning Commission's recommendation for denial. I know it's a little confusing because that is, you don't typically see an ordinance for denial, but we have, because you are the body that makes the final decision on this, you have to act on it so that it gets incorporated into the ordinance. So what you see in front of you is the actual recommendation from the Planning Commission with our staff recommendation. So in this case, staff recommended approval of it based upon all the objective criteria. Planning Commission listened to that, and then they take that criteria. There's an opportunity in some cases for public hearing for people to come and speak for or against it. So just like you have that opportunity to listen to comments from the public and make your final decision, Planning Commission does too. So in this case, they actually recommended denial despite the recommendation from city to them, from city staff to them for approval.
Sorry, Janelle, just
Excuse me, I'm confused. Are we doing 190412 and 413?
No.
411.
What happened to 412?
We didn't.
We
We're
didn't.
not doing that one yet?
Yeah,
No, we did a motion.
It's the two that kind of are connected. Ms. Fields?
Okay, I'd like to point out that I wish we had done our special order first, 190414, because it was to talk about recreational marijuana. And I have to tell you that I am a bit confused about, we went from the medical marijuana to now statewide recreational. I don't know how that state law now affects those ordinances we have passed, and I don't really understand how it affects these two ordinances. I would actually like to make a substitute motion to table 190411, 190413, until we have the special, we get back to the special order 190414, so we can understand how recreational and medical fit within these new ordinances they want us to pass.
There's been a motion,
Second.
and it's been seconded by Mr. Griggs, Ms. Galloway, and then Mr. Mays.
So, through you, Madam Chair, to read, are these ordinances linked to recreation?
One of the two referenced ordinances is, and Madam Chair, if you'll
Sure.
permit me, I can just address it pretty
Sure.
quickly. So, 190411, can I just sit down briefly?
Yes.
No, you must stand.
That's why I ask. So, excuse me, and I brought notes. 19041 is the short ordinance you see entitled Prohibition, Exception, Sunset, Section 1296. In a nutshell, this short ordinance does three things. One, it prohibits the new recreational I'm crossing my wires already. Recreational marijuana licenses that are distinct from medical marijuana licenses that we spent quite a long time creating the scheme and the zoning and the regulatory process for the city.
Prohibits?
For now, for up to 1 year. Because the state has given us a matter of months to get an ordinance in place, otherwise the state rules control and they're very, very loose as far as where these sorts of facilities can go. It took us a very long time to get the medical ordinance right, and I think we did very well and got as close to right as we could under the circumstances. There are areas we can make improvements, but on the whole, I think we've done a very good job on medical marijuana, and I'd like to see us do something similar with recreational. The issue that the state has placed us in is on November the 1st, the state will start taking recreational marijuana license applications. If the city does not have an ordinance on the books either regulating it or prohibiting it, then they will grant that application as a matter of course, so long as they meet the state's minimal criteria. What this opt-out ordinance does, it's sunsetted at a year. I would like to come back sooner than that, but I'm confident that with a year, we can have an ordinance that's comprehensive, that addresses the needs of the residents and balances it with the new industry for recreational marijuana. There's an exception built into this as well. Because we have a medical marijuana industry, we don't want to put them at a competitive disadvantage from marijuana businesses in other cities. They've taken the time, they've gone through the city's process. So if you have a license with the city for medicinal marijuana, you can get an equivalent license, which is defined by the state rules. That's the same thing. For example, you have a provisioning center where you go get your medical marijuana. A retail establishment is the recreational equivalent. You could do both of those so long as they're on the same site. It makes no change to the city's marijuana footprint, as you call it. So wherever the distances are, they're going to remain the same. That effectively allows the city to have the status quo for the medical marijuana that we've worked very hard on, allow the recreational marijuana to grow strictly within those confines for those who have gone through the rigorous process on the medical side, and gives us the time that we need to draft a recreational ordinance, and then those new facilities, depending on the direction the city takes, can go online as well. A lot of communities are doing this. Saginaw just did this exact thing. Kalamazoo's city attorney is making this very same pitch because they're a very pro-medical marijuana city, but they simply need more time to get the rules in place because the state gave us this much time to do so. So it's a 1-year ordinance of opt-out. I would like to come back sooner than that, but even with potential delays, additional time for hearings, etc., I'm confident that we can do that in 1 year.
Okay.
Ms.
So,
Gallagher.
I still have the floor. So, through you to read, 190411 is an opt-out for the 1 year, meaning that we can do what we need to do, but it will protect us
Correct.
from the November 1st guidelines or whatever the state does on November 1st. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then 190413 is a specific ordinance for someone. It has nothing to do with
Recreational.
Right? I mean,
Correct.
Right.
well, and I'm trying to understand because the motion that was made, in my opinion, I don't think that the special order needs to be a part of both of these ordinances. Am I correct or not correct?
The second ordinance is marijuana related, but it's nothing related. I mean, it's a rezoning to allow for a medical marijuana facility. It's not related to recreational.
Okay, so the special order that the motion was made to hear, you've identified that the ordinance that we have on here is safety net of opting out while we get ourselves where we need to be so that we can properly create proper guidelines to protect the city and to be able to manage what's going to happen.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, no, I'm not done. I'm not. I'm sorry. And so my
to withdraw my motion.
Seemed like you was done until Ms. Fields
It wasn't.
communicated. It just seemed like it, so don't get mad
Are
at
you
the chair. I'm doing a communication.
It's fine.
Don't get mad at the chair and
Go ahead, you can finish.
So my second question to you, Reed, I did speak to Andy, and I did speak to, I got the chairperson of the planning commission.
Mr. Wesley.
Mr. Wesley, for a nice amount of time. because I wanted to understand the difference between what the planning commission felt and why they responded the way that they did. I'll yield if you want. Okay. Why I was asking Mr. Wesley why they responded the way that they did, and then I was asking Andy because their two positions were totally different. In speaking with Andy, I was sharing with him that he has a lot more information, but their staffing recommendation, Suzanne, it seemed like was forthcoming. You know, if we were where we needed to be, he was thinking about that space wasn't going to be a problem. Whereas with the planning commission, they were saying based on spot zoning, this is what would be identified as spot zoning, but it wouldn't be if this council changed and or adopted the ordinance. So my question to you is this ordinance in adoption form? And all we need to say is yes, and if it is, I'll wait till our other discussion on whatever we're gonna do.
Yeah, I believe this ordinance, if adopted, would allow for the change of zoning. It just has the planning commission's recommendation in there as a matter of the record.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Mays?
Yeah, let me say this. The original motion was to move both of them to council, and it was for passage of failure. You move them to council, you vote yes or no, and that's simple. The motion to postpone until we have the discussion about the recreational marijuana, that discussion has pretty much just been had. So the motion was, is we gonna table and have that discussion. So now I am gonna vote no, not to table it and have that discussion, because the discussion just been had. Now, if y'all want a more thorough discussion on recreational, you know, I'm not gonna vote to opt out. I would tell the legal department to opt in by bringing an ordinance before September, October is up. That's my position, because I know what's happening in the state. And I know what's happening in the city of Flint. I know what's happening all across the state. People are smoking recreational marijuana, and they gonna be smoking it. The question is Mount Morris Township and others gonna be selling, because there's people on this council who ain't voted for recreational, medical, don't care nothing about marijuana. The train that left the station. I'm smoking Cool Miles. Folks drinking and they smoking marijuana. The train that left the station. So keep in mind what this motion is. If you vote yes, we're going to stop and talk about the details of recreational marijuana, which we done somewhat halfway did. The motion is to move them to council. Do you want to keep them in committee or move them to council? If they move to council, we're going to vote them up or down. That's all this is. When they get to council, I know how I would vote on each one of them. I'd be voting for the zoning change, and I'd be voting no, not to opt out. But in the interim, I'm going to make a referral. I'm making a referral to legal department to bring me a local draft ordinance for recreational by the end of September, the 1st of October, so we can look at it in the first meeting in October. That's my position. I ain't got to opt out and send that message across the airwaves. It's bad PR for a pro-recreational council person. Now I'm here to tell you I know what I'm talking about, because I'm looking at Mount Morris Township right across the street from me on Clio Road. I've been to Mount Morris Township meetings. They did the same thing with alcohol. You can't buy it in the mornings or holidays. They go right to Burton and come back and drink. I'm pro-entrepreneurship, no matter who owns it. I wish the local folks would get more into ownership. So that's my position. Do y'all still want to table and go more into the details of what's happening with recreational? For those who don't know, I'll vote to table, but then we going right into the discussion of recreational, and I'm telling you, get buckled down and ready to receive it. Because if we table it and go into recreational, then we're gonna have some serious discussion on this opt-out or opt-in on recreation. If we move it to council or to special affairs, then you can study it over the weekend. I'm kind of thinking for all of those who need more time, let's take it step by step time. Let's not postpone it altogether or table it until the discussion. But look, we got time. I'm not finna make the motion to move it to special affairs. I wanna see how many of them wanna table it right now and go immediately into the discussion of recreation. Those who wanna do that gonna vote yes. Those who wanna move a different way gonna vote no. That's what I'm listening to in the discussion, Ms. Galloway. I don't know how people voting right now. I know how Ms. Fields voting. Who seconded the motion to table? Mr. Griggs, Ms. Galloway, you know how I'm gonna vote, do you? I'll go either way. I'm gonna count and listen. If y'all wanna discuss recreational, convince me we got 5 votes yes to do it. If y'all wanted to go to special affairs or the council to vote it up or down, then you're gonna be voting no on the table. I'm curious as heck, and I'm quiet right now.
Thank you. Ms. Fields?
I'd like to withdraw my motion and offer a substitute motion to send 190411 to council for first reading.
Point of order. If you want to withdraw it, then let's hear a verbal vote allowing you to withdraw it. So that's my point. If you want to withdraw it, we got to vote verbally to withdraw it and then proceed with the motion.
We've never had to vote on
I'm
it.
just telling you, you have.
Point of
You don't think so.
information
Mr. Guerra,
is that if there's no objection,
is there an objection to her withdrawal of her
I don't
motion?
think it said that. Well, let's see then. Let's pause so we won't have to cross this bridge
Well,
again.
is there an objection to her withdrawal of her
No,
motion?
it ain't no objection, but let's see what
Okay,
it
then
says.
Ms. Fields, proceed.
Point of order. Point of order. Can you hesitate, please?
Sure. Ms.
Thank you.
Galloway, do you have that?
This is something we don't.
I still have the floor, actually.
Yeah, we just want to know for the future, because it's gonna come up, it didn't come up before. Hey, we having a great meeting, guys, let's keep it going.
Speaking to the mic, sir. Mr. President, for the public to hear.
Oh, so we have to vote yes?
That's what
I'm
it's
saying. You ain't no lawyer, you ain't gonna press my head.
Could I finish, Madam Chair, my actual motion? Because I was interrupted while I was stating my substitute motion.
Point of order.
Ms. Galloway.
It doesn't say you can make a substitute when you withdraw. If you're withdrawing, it has to be voted on by the body. That's what we
Right.
just read.
Hello.
You can't include a substitute in it
Right.
because then we're forced to vote on 2 separate things.
Are you
According to the
withdrawing or are
rules.
you making a substitute motion?
I don't believe it says that, but I will, to keep Ms. Galloway happy,
Not
I'll
Ms.
just
Galloway,
withdraw the
point of
motion.
order is
I second that motion.
There's been a motion to
I
withdraw
second it.
and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, Ms. Fields, you still have the floor.
I would like to make a motion to move ordinance 190411 to council for a first reading.
There's been a motion to move 19041.
Point of,
411.
point. That, I already made that motion.
No,
Point of information.
you did 2 of them,
Yes, that's a substitute motion, not a motion.
the substitute motion.
That is what we did.
That's fine, I'll offer a substitute motion.
Point of information, can you just separate? So we don't have to do all that?
No. So
My substitute motion is to separate and to offer just 190411 to be moved to council
Is that
for first
acceptable?
reading.
Yeah.
Is there a second, Ms. Galloway?
I'll second that.
There's been a
Is
motion.
it for everybody? I'm sorry.
Yes, that one was mine, but
Oh.
you can use that right now. There's been a motion to separate 190411 and move that to council. It's been seconded. Discussion.
Yeah.
And Mr. Griggs had his hand up for the last one, if that's okay, if he wants to start.
I'd like
And
to
then
do
Mr.
2
Hayes.
topics. One is, maybe we should make a motion or withdraw the original motion to put ordinances in front of special orders. That was a
Point of
mistake we
information.
made, yeah.
He basically just gave the special order, so Mr. Mason said that, it's, we can
Okay.
continue.
And then my next thing, to read,
Yes.
and while we were doing the medical marijuana ordinance and everything, we spent, or the city spent a lot of money with our legal department.
It's beautiful.
Getting that done. Well, now the same thing's getting ready to happen with recreational marijuana. Since the state is getting about 90 to 95% of our income from sales, why doesn't the state do the ordinance for us? Why can't they use their legal department and they come up with the ordinance instead of making us do it while they get all the money?
Good question.
Well, the state has a statute. The statute was drafted, in fact, by the advocates who put the ballot measure on the ballot. So it was drafted by the people who are interested in recreational marijuana, the coalition. The state's attorneys, the Attorney General's office, they work in conjunction with Laura, who at least put the regulatory rules together. The statute has given us the ability to create our own ordinance, including distance requirements like we have for medical. But otherwise, the restrictions are very limited. So in effect, they have given us a statute, but the bar is very, very low for who will qualify, where you would qualify for a recreational license that would be in direct conflict with our medical ordinance, but it wouldn't be subject to its jurisdiction. Does that make sense?
Vaguely.
Okay. They simply haven't done so. We don't have the mechanism to make them.
And then, now to this, okay, thanks, Reed. Now to this, spot zoning. I'm not so sure I agree with the planning commission.
Point of order.
Ms. Galloway?
That's not on, does my colleague
We're not on
realize
that?
that that's not the one we're on?
We're just on the first one now.
Okay, I got you. I'll back off, I'm done.
Okay. Mr. Mays?
Yeah, Madam Chair, thanks. I don't appreciate, because remember, I'm not the opt-out voting guy. I don't appreciate the legal department bringing us an opt-out ordinance, and I know we don't have to opt out. And I hear what's being said, but guess what? I know how legal departments, finance departments, and even council can prioritize. I know what can be done with the use of special meetings. And I can hear from my colleagues that they ain't up on the rules as it relates to the time frames of recreational in October and November. And so I don't know what all the people is doing in this city, but I know when the majority of the voters in the state of Michigan vote, whether they vote for Gretchen Whitmer, Dana Nessel, or recreational marijuana, it means something to me. I don't care if folks who think they smoke some weed, they gonna go to the devil. The God I know can send you to heaven even if you smoke weed and had some Hennessy. So my position is this: I'm looking at the will of the voters, and I'm looking at doing stuff in a timely manner, and I'm looking at sending the right message. And the message I'm sending is, in the month of September and October, Reed, facilitate a special meeting. There's two ways special meetings can be called at a council. The mayor can call them, and or two or more council people. I'm on board. I need one more council person to call a special meeting to talk about recreational marijuana and the aspects of it under state law. That's what I'm raising my hand for. Give me one more and we got a date to set and we can get all brought up to speed. Mr. Davis. So I'm counting. And if I count 5 out of 9 not to opt out, then the ones who think you gonna go to the devil because you smoke weed gonna lose 5 to 4.
Yeah, man.
I almost said I don't think I'm gonna go to the devil for smoking weed. He said, watch it. I don't think, you can't hide from God. My position is this: I don't think I don't think I'm gonna go to the devil for them saying I had 4 flats and it was only 3. I don't think it. So these some tough subjects. They controversial. Let's take them head on, Reed, before we come up here and tell a legislative body that we didn't get there. We still got plenty of time to get there. And then if we put our best foot forward and don't get there, I'll be the first to say postpone. I might go 6 months versus a year. I might go in 3-month intervals and review it again. But I just don't like the message that I'm sending to people who I know smoke weed. They vote very well, some of them. Thank you so much.
I've got Ms. Galloway.
Thank you. Reed, I would like to say thank you. Because I did speak with Brenda Moore at Saginaw, who is now the president of the Michigan Municipal League. And this is a very, very controversial in that the state is trying to figure it out. And I want to thank you because I thought maybe we had opted in already. And so, in my opinion, I would hope my colleagues would not see this as...
Mr. Mays, what's your point?
Ms. Galloway, do you understand if you say nothing, you in? If they opt out, do you understand that?
I do, and that's why I'm thanking you.
So we in
Thank
right
you.
now. We in.
So, but we cannot be. So, and so I just want to say, Reed, I hope my colleagues will recognize that this is an important time in history. And it is so important that it warrants us doing whatever we can to make sure we're doing this right. This is not about going to the devil. This is about the impact that this is going to have on our children. And so I don't know if people realize it, but now everywhere you go, you smell marijuana. You don't know children that have asthma. You have no idea what that smell does in a closed restaurant where you're trying to have dinner with your family, including your children, and this smell is so strong that it overtakes the entire building. And so I once again applaud you. The other piece of that is we need to understand exactly how the implementation of this is. And I'm not against anybody that wants to do that. But it's interesting that they did a study and they had the law person from Colorado, from the city of Colorado, come in. And it was interesting, from Denver, I'm sorry, but it was interesting that he said, we didn't have enough time. We found ourselves getting it right after 14 months of being in it. And so people were losing their jobs because the human resources law doesn't change because recreational marijuana is legal. You still can't go to work and do the test and test positive and necessarily keep your job. And so he was just saying, as a municipality, it's important that all of you consider, research, find out how this is affecting the workplace, how this is affecting the constituents that you serve. And so for me, Reed, I just say thank you because I would have probably missed it. And I thank you that the law department is here also to protect us. We might disagree sometime, Reed, I know we do, but in this one, I just say thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
First, before we go to the next person, I just want to clarify that it's still legal it's recreational marijuana we passed it. You can smoke marijuana. I think we're getting confused here in discussion. This is solely for selling and growing.
Yeah, correct. No impact on personal use and personal grow and the rights created under the recreational law.
Just to clarify, just so that everyone knows, so the opt-out is not opting out of being able to smoke marijuana.
Correct.
It is where it's grown and where it's sold.
Commercial.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Guerra?
Yeah, I just wish that, no offense, I understand you guys are really busy at legal, but I wish we could have had a potential ordinance already in front of us, not knowing, before this, but I do understand that it's going to take time to get it right, because it did take us a long time to get the medical marijuana ordinance right, and I think that'd be the best, is making sure it's done the right way, so other businesses can have a chance, because I know we didn't do a lottery.
Point of information.
Mr. Mays, what are you?
For information, how long do you think it'll take legal to do one, Mr. Garrett? Or you can answer this.
Yeah, I'm not aware.
Talking base.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not aware that they
Anybody know
said
how long it takes
to the point of information to him.
until you,
Yeah.
y'all can deny
You wanna-
it,
you
but
wanna
I
answer
know
that?
right
Well, so I can only answer to what legal can perform, and obviously we don't work on legislation in a vacuum. We need feedback not only because if we craft this under the zoning ordinance, this is just a licensing, so it's chapter 12, so it doesn't affect zoning, so we don't have to go to the planning commission. But if we're going to do a comprehensive recreational ordinance, like we did medical, that goes into zoning, which means under state law, we have to go to the planning commission first, which slows our feet regardless of how fast we'd like to go. So I very much, if I thought it was feasible to have the best possible recreational ordinance done in time for November 1st, I would be standing here advocating for that.
Point
I'm
of
not.
information.
Yes.
Did he answer the question,
Mr.
how
Mays.
much time? I didn't hear that.
Mr. Mays, that's not really
Well, that's just my
appropriate.
point of
I'm gonna-
information. You don't
I'm
have to
gonna let
answer,
Mr.
but I
Guerra
don't want to have to
continue.
subpoena an answer. It's a good, if you know
And
how
you're
long
on
it takes
here.
to make
You're on
a
Order.
Okay.
All right, yeah, so,
Mr.
but
Chair?
my concern is too, is that the fact that the residents did vote for this and they did want this to pass, but I do understand that it takes time for this to get done. I think that the best thing to do would be to send it to council and then let the body decide what they want to see happen with it.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Mr. Winfrey?
Oh, you know, I really, I don't know who said it, but I think you said it, Madam Chair. But I think you're absolutely right. We're mixing the two, recreation, and some folks don't even like to say recreation, because when they think of recreation, they're thinking about things to do with family. So we call it in my field, behavioral health, adult use marijuana. But I think we really need to watch how we seemingly want to weave the two together, medical marijuana and recreational marijuana. I have seen the benefits of medical marijuana. And when I see a young kid who has suffered with epilepsy, has no manual dexterity, cannot walk, and then after some treatments with them, some cannabinoids, CBDs, and then now they're able to pick up things and walk and stand up. How do I say no to that? Now, I do need, Councilman Mays, a whole bunch of my people, my colleagues, and my constituents talking me into this adult use or recreational marijuana. I'm willing to listen to anybody about it, but just by nature of my background, my professional background in behavioral health, I need a whole lot of talking with that. So I thank you. Talking to.
Well, just a point of information, it is already law, so we can't change that.
That's true. That's true.
That's not-
But we're talking about what we do here. And then Councilman Mays brought up a point at our last council meeting that, because I have been thinking one way and I think it's another. So, and that is, Madam Chair, through you to Attorney Reed Erickson. If we don't do anything, are we automatically in?
Yes.
So you were correct, Councilman. I didn't doubt you, but so much.
I'm on there, and then Mr. Mays
I'm
the
done.
second time.
I'm done.
Okay. So I did talk to Mr. Erickson, because constituents and Mr. Del Moroni had brought this up too about, we don't want to get to November 1st and then council's not had a discussion on what we want for this city. And if we do nothing, then it can be sold and processed anywhere within the city, pretty much. The state has allowed, as what I understand, just broad reaching. And in my case, I am for what because when he told me, Mr. Erickson, what his plan was and bringing forth this ordinance, I was in agreement. We spent a long time on this medical marijuana ordinance, a long time. And for those that have went through that process, they're allowed to go ahead and do the same thing with recreational as we figure out, do we want to allow any additional recreational facilities to open up elsewhere? That's a lot of work. We don't have a lot of time before November 1st. So in my opinion, I think it would be best to do this opt-out for now knowing that we're gonna do this work as a council, and also that the medical marijuana folks that have already received their licensing and went through that hard work will have that ability to also do recreational. Mr. Mays?
Yeah, Madam Chair, let me say this. We did spend a lot of time on medical. And I'm telling you, that's the place to sell the recreation. And I'm here to tell you, if you listening, that we can do a quick ordinance that in the city of Flint, you can sell the recreational at the locations. We spent a lot of time with the medical, and we can amend it later and spend more time and more time. I'm just not in the position of sending out the message that the city of Flint is full of Mormons and is opting out. I don't even know if Mormons opt in or out. All I'm saying is this ain't the Holy Land. This is part of the vote of the community, and I done seen this vote. I seen the vote when President Obama was on the ballot. This community done told elected officials what to do, and I'm saying don't be a hypocrite. You don't always have to vote like the people say. But I'm just telling you, y'all better be smart about the big votes and the little votes, and you better be smart about legal advice. Because as a legislature that's going to make a decision 5-4, my recommendation in a timely manner is bring me a quick ordinance that can sell where we done spent time licensing where they can sell. That's the same place, which is the medical marijuana locations. Now, talk about that. And I'm going to tell you, that's the conversation I'm ready to have. I see Reed standing up. I see Attorney Brenda Williams. I see folks now, and my position is this. Call a special meeting. Me and Maurice Davis say we'll do it. We ain't got to sit here all night tonight and go back and forth. Show me between now and October, November, you ready to talk about it. I know what it is, Mr. Winfrey. This is what it is. And I see you pointing at the clock. Some is getting it twisted. Oh, they gonna be able to smoke on private property whether you opt out or not. It is just selling and distribution. And they can go by in Burton, Mount Morris Township, and come and smoke right in front of Miss Galloway on private property. Oh, yes,
they wouldn't be on my
right next door to you.
Point of order.
So
This time is up.
I know my time ain't up, so my position is let's have that discussion. My time up.
You spoke a lot.
Okay.
Where are we at now?
Do you have something you wanted to say first? And then Davis, Mr. Davis wanted to speak.
We're still at the first motion.
Yeah, are we on point of information?
Yeah.
Are we on a motion to send this to council?
Yes. Mr. Erickson.
I'm not going with that, and that's what I'm saying.
Now, wait a minute, man, don't get your head cracked, cracking Jack Lotties around here now. What?
I just want to clarify that I don't think we're necessarily at odds even with the ordinance as drafted. We did draft specifically an exemption to the opt-out, saying if you have a medical license, for instance, for provisioning through the city and the state, then you can also get your recreational license.
Point of information, and I think that needs to be very clear to these people who think it might mean something else. The term that you say exemption.
Point of order, that's not a point of
I
information.
just said that you think an exemption. Y'all gonna get me going, because because I'm finna get busy with you out of order when you telling them that I didn't ask a question. Rule on whether her point of order is out of order
I'm going to
first.
rule in favor of Ms.
Okay, I'm gonna appeal the rule.
There's been an appeal to the chair over the ruling that his point of information is not a point of information. Is there a second? So there's been a second to that appeal. Discussion?
You going first?
And the appeal was that you ruled on her point of order, and you said her point of order was.
Point of order, you out of order, you ain't the chair. Point of order, she ain't directing this appeal.
Point of information.
Y'all done got it going, let's jump it off.
I will start. It is correct. This is made like about the third or fourth time that Mr. Mays has used a point of information to try to take the floor. I have no problem with giving him the floor if he has time left, but in this case, it was interruption during someone else's time. Mr. Mays.
Yeah, Madam Chair, you ruled that me asking was an exemption in a question manner. You ruled before I could ask the question about exemption that it was out of order because Ms. Fields said it was put in a quick question form about that exemption. That was some new information to me, that they can sell where medical was and he wrote it in an exemption. That's why I say we need to go over this. And so I'm here to tell you, I wouldn't care if you get 5 votes or not. Mr. Davis and I was right. It was a point of information, a quick inquiry about that exemption that came out new information. And then Monica Galloway and people went to shutting it down, and I've been begging y'all, don't make this meeting go south. And y'all done did it anyway. Y'all been doing points of information, you didn't even did it from the chair, and don't have to. So y'all ain't no scientists on no points of information and points of order. You're not going to discriminate starting now. It was a point of information about an exemption. And before I could even finish in question form, did just like you did the other night when I said, damn y'all. What happened was Miss Fields, point of order, that's not a question.
Mays, please don't mock other members of the council.
Well, they mocking me and my intelligence to do a point. You out of order. I'm trying to argue. After
Mr. Mays, I am the chair, and I have the right to say that you are mocking others and to please stop.
In fact, I am. And if you say please, I don't have to stop. My position is this. I can make my point about what others say as it relates to down and me. Now, you might think they tone ain't down in me, but when you take a senior councilman and say he don't know how to do a simple point of information, that's mocking me and my seniority. So your view of mocking is different from my view. My view is different from your view. I've got the right to say point of information as it relates to that new information about an exemption. And I'll be voting no that I wasn't out of order. And you and your buddies can vote yes.
Mr. Davis?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Only thing I got to say is, with these new ordinances, I just wish if you could sell, there's so many stipulations. Okay, go on.
Did you want to speak?
No, I'm sorry. I forgot what another part.
Point of order. Y'all don't know what that man was finna say and point been made. Sometimes you should give people latitude and listen before you rule him out of order. Don't you think?
Mr. Mays, I didn't rule him out of
You
order.
did interrupt. You know, he hadn't spoke for 30 seconds. Y'all ain't gonna do me like that and nobody else. I'm in a point of order. Miss Worthy.
Yes, and
You read minds now?
Mr. Mays.
Y'all read minds, you and Monica?
I need you to please listen.
Oh. You might want me to leave until y'all
I
stop this
asked him if he
foolishness.
wanted to speak, and he said he's fine.
No.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak?
I do want to speak.
Miss Galloway?
And she...
Point of order.
Mr. Mays.
She ain't on topic.
Mr. Mays, you're screaming.
I'm showing you we didn't even know what she was gonna say. You just doing other
Mr.
people.
Mays,
She wasn't on topic. No, it was an example of something.
That's out of order.
You're out of order.
Begin to speak. And
That's
Mr.
what we
Davis.
said. Say that to us, me and Murray and others. That's how they do. Don't know. I didn't know what you was gonna say. I just proved something to you. Y'all go ahead. To me, I did prove
Mr. Mays,
something.
please stop.
Please, that's what we telling y'all. Stop.
So, this is the thing. I am over being held hostage by Councilman Mays.
Point of order.
And
Point of order. She's out of order. I ain't holding you hostage. What's the ransom amount? How much is the ransom for your hostage? No, you shut up. That's what she said. You didn't get her to tell me to shut up. I'm going to point of order. You leave.
I will not allow this screaming.
You leave.
You must leave.
Point of order. When I say point of order, your job mouth supposed to
I am
stop.
the chair.
Point of order.
And I will.
A chair's mouth stop.
I am asking you.
Point of order. I'm asking you to stop your mouth when I say point of order.
Well, stand still and wait
Well,
until
then
you leave
stand
the seat.
still
I will
until
not
you
allow this.
start coming to regular meetings. You can stand still. I bet you I won't go there. You can go to this chair no
Mr. Mays to lead the
more.
meeting.
Point of information.
Motion on the floor for a recess
Point of
of 15
information.
minutes. Is there a second?
Point of information.
Mr. Davis, what is your
Y'all trying to take
One
over.
person cannot remove a colleague from the chair. It only take votes. You can't do it by yourself.
That's
man.
crazy.
Well, then you
Yes,
can
she
show that.
can.
No, she
I
can't.
can.
There's too many
One person to take a vote.
If you said recess, recess.
Right, recess
Without
15
an
minutes.
You gonna be in court. Don't do it.
For what?
You object.
Maurice, you're wrong.
I ain't finna leave the court. I'm trying to
I'll show you.
Now on the disorderly conduct.
Yes, they will.
Okay, go home.
Who told you that, Maze? Who told you that, Maze?
They try to remove your councilors on that. I'm telling you, don't do it.
It overrules with, it's silent. Do you hear me, Maurice? It's not silent. Right here.
You Monica.
It says, the public and city council are both subject to the disorderly persons conduct ordinance. Additionally, the chair or presiding officer has a responsibility and duty to enforce these rules and sanction for the purpose of maintenance and book. Only the chair or presiding officer may determine and rule on who or what is in and out of order. Violations of this rule shall result in removal from the
And
meeting.
that's a vote.
No,
I'm telling you.
it says the chair is responsible. It says right here.
You can always appeal the
right here.
chair, and when you appeal them, they
If he
gotta.
appeals and
So when I
wins,
say
then he
she
can't.
throw me out, I appeal it, she gotta stop moving her mouth, she out of order, throw herself out for not recognizing the point of order. You got blinders on to rules.
The first motion.
I believe that we had heard from everyone on 190-411, and we are ready to vote. All in favor of moving 190-411 to council, say aye. Aye. Any nays?
You ain't got it.
It passes.
What do you mean?
He
There's
did.
five of
Yeah,
us.
you know what, you are not even here, you should just go. But no, but that passed, that passed. 401 passed.
The meeting is broke for a quorum.
Now, well,
It's
just,
been broke.
bye,
You're right.
Mr.
Now
Mays,
it's
bye, bye.
Bye for what?
Just leave.
What did y'all vote on? We was on an appeal, y'all way out of order.
I've asked you to leave. You're no longer a part of
Hey, point of order.
No, there's no
Point of order. Point of order. Point of order.
Officers, I have
Point of order.
to leave.
Y'all gonna sit here, y'all gonna sit here, they done think they done voted and didn't finish the appeal. Point of order, everything stopped, and you asked my point.
That on the record.
According to the disorderly persons
Point of
ordinance
order.
3110.
3110, a chair has a
I'm gonna see
right
if
to
y'all
ask
sick and let this
a disorderly
keep going.
council person to leave. I have called Mr. Mays out of order.
If
He
one
is
of y'all
no
move,
longer
this is
welcome
over.
at this meeting.
If one of y'all move, this is over.
We have just passed
We was on an
190-411. What is the
appeal.
pleasure of this body?
We was on an appeal.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Fields?
point of information, could you clarify for me, are we supposed to do ordinances before resolutions?
We were gonna do specifically,
Point of order.
are you coming or, are you staying or going, Mr. Davis?
We need to find out legally what we should or shouldn't do with this, because I don't want to see no more litigation against the city. So until somebody pull out the charter or the rules, which I have the rules, I'm not sure if one person can have a person removed. It take a vote of 6, I do believe. Please check your rules, because I have the rules right here.
Mr. Davis, I'm just asking because you're in and out of your seat, we need 5 for quorum.
They
So in
left
order
the
to
appeal, they
continue,
already out of order. They skipped the appeal and voted to send something to council. It don't be a part of it. Just leave them here while we
I
can.
believe Maurice, Councilman Davis, are you out of
This
your
is
seat?
crazy.
We're over? Are you out of your, you're in your
I'm
seat?
finna read this rule.
well, is that a point of order? Because Ms. Fields has the
I'm
floor.
finna blow somebody out their seat, cause we won't break up the quorum. When they was in an appeal, when we went on recess and came out to recess and voted to move something to council, how out of order is that? Never finished the appeal.
You okay with everything on special hearing?
1 second. It's gone?
Yep, it's gone.
You don't have to wait.
This meeting is adjourned to the lack of quorum.
So everybody do.
Quorum gone.
Special affairs.
All right, John. Meeting goes.
That's the meeting for council on Wednesday.
It can go.
Could you tell Angela, we obviously need a legal opinion on can we remove a council person based on the disorderly conduct? Because Maurice is pulling the, we can't do it unless we're in the So we need for special
I will do all that I can.
accommodate
I've never heard that gentleman. Never.